3, 2, 1. Welcome, Mississippi State fans, to the Village on the Plains. Some call it the loveliest village. I won't go that far, but I've always liked Auburn. You know, us A&M schools to some extent have to stick together. But you know, when State and Auburn have a good series going, there's a lot of hatred between the two because they surely hate losing to State. Steve, you and I both walked around campus. We don't sense that. Auburn has come here expecting to win. Meanwhile, the Mississippi State team that got shown up last week at Georgia, our players, though, talking to them this week, they're kind of quietly confident about this matchup.
David, you're right. I think you've probably encapsulated it the best you can. This Auburn fan base and team, it appears, comes in confident this week. State obviously comes in with a little something to prove after a bad showing last week at the University of Georgia. Many State fans thought State could stay in the ballgame last week. Maybe many weren't expecting a win, but a 4-touchdown blowout loss was certainly not in the cards. Bulldogs looked to rebound today, and its fan base certainly needs them to.
Well, judging the best we could from the players we talked to this past week, and Coach Dan Mullen and others, and the assistants that I had a chance to meet with, they seemed to shake off that loss pretty well. Now, yes, they had a full game basically to get used to the fact they were going to lose the game, then a long flight back, but they absorbed it pretty well, and they have moved on to this one now. Now, Auburn, we've talked about all week. In some ways, they are similar to a Georgia, but in a lot of ways, they're just still radically different in that they are much more reliant on a pure power running game without maybe the deep strike that Georgia shows in the passing game.
That's true, David, and that's what we saw last year. You know, when Auburn came to State last year, you had a running back go down, and you thought, okay, well, here you go. And then a guy that had, I think, 12 career carries, runs all over State. And really that's what Gus Malzahn wants to do. He has all these, directional type plays, and they run some counters, but they want to line up and run the football. They're kind of creative what they do with formations and some motions and some eye candy stuff, as we've heard for many years. But at its core, Auburn is a running team, always has been. Jared Stidham, I think, is going to have to be a guy that's going to make some plays down the field against his secondary in order for Auburn to have a big win today. But, David, I think we both know Tigers are up for the challenge.
Well, Stidham, he's not as mobile a quarterback as some that State will face. A guy like Fromm was able to get the ball out of his hands quickly, so we're not really sure if he's mobile or not. But Stidham, there's a track record on him. He's not the most agile and escapable of quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, and Clemson certainly exploited that with 11 sacks in the ball game. Auburn's made some changes on the offensive line, done a better job since then. I don't know if they faced the front of an SEC opponent like they'll see tonight. Missouri, of course, is very defensively challenged, and so it's going to be paramount for State to go out there and get some pressure on him early in the ball game.
I think Missouri's challenged in a lot of ways, but setting that aside. All right, let's take it Mississippi State. How do they attack the Auburn defense? Very fast, very aggressive, very good hitting. Maybe, if there's a weak link in there, you want to attack them in the secondary. Will Nick Fitzgerald have the time to do that, and can they get the ground game going enough to give him a chance to throw the ball downfield?
I expect State to take a couple deep shots early just to back those safeties out of the box, and then use the tight end some so they won't get downhill. They've got to be able to keep those linebackers honest. It's a very good group of Auburn linebackers, and certainly a team that's going to get better as the season goes along and they learn to play together. But the Bulldogs are going to have to be more multiple, and they're going to have to run and do some misdirection stuff. And I think what State needs to do to get the ground game going is to use the pass to set up the run, because I think people are going to get 7 in the box and dare Nick Fitzgerald to throw the football.
Until State shows a true downfield passing game, and by downfield I also mean on the sidelines, which they're not really set up well for that this year. Let's be honest about it. Can this be the game where they finally decide we have really got to emphasize, even force the ball to the tight ends like Jordan Thomas and Farrod Green?
I think that's a real possibility, especially a guy like Farrod, who has shown some big playability. Jordan's kind of been a possession guy, and he's really kind of playing out of position, playing some at the X receiver. But, David, when you can exploit some mismatches, and that's kind of what the Dan Mullen offense is predicated on, is getting the matchups you want. State did not have many of those last week, and when they did have them, couldn't complete the play. I think in order for State to win this ball game, they've got to survive the first quarter. They've got to get out of the gate and not go 2 scores down, because when you do that against a team as good as Auburn, you're in trouble.
Especially an Auburn team that's really good at eating up clock and controlling the pace of play. State is not built to play catch-up against this type of opponent. But then again, not many teams are. Auburn, of course, they could very well have that one big trump card. They always seem to have an experienced place kicker. They've got one this year again.
That's true, David, and I think that special teams is going to be a big part of this. I don't expect it to be a beauty contest. I think it's just going to be an ugly ball game. I think that it may boil down to special teams. It may boil down to a field goal. It may boil down to a block punt. We'll see. But special teams in games like these where the teams are somewhat equal are a big component of things.
All right, quickly, Steve, I know you were signing books today, and it's fascinating how other places around the SEC are taking interest in what you're writing, which says as much about the quality of your publication out there as how they feel about a certain rival who's getting very well shown up.
Yeah, it's true, Dave. It was a great experience today here at Auburn. A lot of Auburn fans had heard about the book. Their first time to lay their hands on it, so we sold several books to Auburn fans, had several Mississippi State fans come by. many who bought the book and some who already owned the book just wanted to get a picture and say hello. So very appreciative of those fans and of all the folks that stopped by the Auburn Bookstore today. And next Saturday, the Bulldogs are off, but I'm not taking the weekend off. I'll be at Bay Books in Bay St. Louis signing again. So ready to get after it.
So, from Jordan-Hare Stadium, ahead of Mississippi State, 5 o'clock kickoff on ESPN against the Auburn Tigers, another top 25 showdown, and a game which, as we've said all along, this is a game which can really determine what level of bowl game Mississippi State can look forward to in playing at the end of the season. So a lot at stake here before Mississippi State goes into its open date. We'll have our post-game video as well, wrapping up the events of tonight's game. So it'll be Steve Robertson, David Murray.